You're watching Monty TV. I'm Jackie Karsh. Sitting down now with Klaas Oskam. He's the CEO and Managing Director for DC Advisory's India office. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thanks so much for having me.
So what are the most exciting areas for M&A tech markets in India?
So I think, like anywhere else in the world, the most excitement is towards AI, but not a lot of M&A there yet because most of that is still at early stages. And obviously in AI, the US is way ahead. But I think the DeepSeek moment hit hard in India as well, because I think for a long time people were thinking large language models is a big money game. India can't compete. But here, this Chinese company proved that with small budgets and through innovation, they could build a globally competitive model. So I think maximum investor intention is towards AI. Other areas where we continue to see strong activity, fintech. There, of course, there's been a lot of innovation in India. Aadhaar, the kind of unique identifier for the entire population, as well as then the UPI stack that has been built on top of that has completely transformed digital payments in India. So we've seen a lot of innovation around that, which is now starting to drive M&A. Other areas, cyber is still, I'd say, quite nascent compared to the US, but we're starting to see more of it. Again, the new world and the threats that are there. And then I think quite a bit of clean tech and green tech, because in certain solar cases, again, India is cost competitive and truly the green solutions are the cheaper solutions. So adoption is starting to take off there. And then I think on the consumer tech side, the most excitement in the last 12 months has been on what's called quick commerce, where basically India's unique population density and low cost of labor has created a business case that's not been as successful in the US, but has been truly successful in India in the last 12 months, where you can literally get anything to your house delivered in 5 to 10 minutes.
Are Indian companies still relying on the US markets for revenue?
Yeah, in a lot of situations they are. And it's just simple statistics, TAM. Whilst US might be 25% of the global GDP, it's 40 to 45% of the tech spend globally. And if you look at historically, India, of course, first wave was more IT services. And it's been more the last decade that Indian companies have also become competitive more on the product side, SaaS and the likes. But obviously, India itself is still a relatively small market. And whilst there is tech companies in India that will focus on the India market and consumer tech, they will typically build for India. In enterprise tech, 45% of the global spend happening in the US. You can't ignore that. I think the other one that's there is that clearly the Indian diaspora in the US has been hugely successful. Microsoft, Google, Adobe, all being led by Indian CEOs. A lot of entrepreneurs who've kind of come up here and been successful, Freshworks, Girish, and many others. So that's created a close-knit community where people who've kind of gone for higher education in the US might stay back or might start off in India first, but then when they start to see traction, re-domicile their company here. And they will have a big founder network of like-minded Indian diaspora to tap into. And I'm clearly seeing that, especially if it's on AI, where US is so far ahead, that a lot of founders are again saying, look, if I want to break through and then build a breakout company, I have to be here. So that's definitely there. One nuance though, a lot of these companies are incorporated in the US now, but over the last 12 months, the India IPO market has been on a tear. And you can take tech companies public in India at far lower scale. So it's not just valuations being attractive, it's actually more the fact that it could effectively, from a US standpoint, take subscale companies public. So what we have seen in the last 12 months is some of those companies that are global companies, have most of their engineering and R&D out of India, have an Indian founder, but are incorporated in the US. Some of them have started to flip back and do an inversion to take advantage of the very buoyant, conducive Indian stock market.
How have valuations changed for Indian tech startups?
So I think obviously we all benefited from the COVID highs in 2021 and early days of 2022, like you had here in the US and globally. Valuations in India peaked, and we saw a similar correction in private markets in India as across the world. And overall M&A volumes and funding volumes for startups literally dropped 70%. Through to 2023. In 2024, things stabilized. So 24 volumes and values were kind of more or less the same as 2023. I think what changed for India is that despite last couple of months or last 6 months, the public market actually not doing that great, the IPO market has been open for the last, I'd say, 5 quarters, 15 months. And whereas despite the US market actually potentially performing better, the public market, you've not seen comparatively that level of IPO activity. So I think the last 12 months, the story in India has been the IPO market has been significantly ahead of the private market in terms of valuation, in terms of investor appetite. Now, in the last month, that started to change. Things have started to taper down. There will still be IPOs, but I think the bar will be higher. It's going to be higher quality companies that will be able to go. What's that going to do for the private market? To us, it means that some of the activity that shifted from the private market to the public market, where companies prematurely went IPO, those companies might push out their IPOs, stay private longer. For that reason, we see the second half of this year that activity in the private market is likely to pick up. But the next 3-4 months, I think, any founder is always optimistic, like they should be. They want to hear yesterday's valuations.